There's no skill that's unimportant in this course or in any of the Birthing Better courses. We, as a New Zealand not-for-profit, and I, as the person who developed these skills with hundreds of fathers and mothers in the early 1970s in the United States, we just nitpicked the crap out of birth and all of the little differences between women. Because this is where it's kind of crazy, isn't it? 100% of pregnant women will give birth one way or another. But each pregnant woman, each birthing woman has her own unique circumstances. And everybody wants to know, what about me? We're all self-centered, and everybody wants to know, what if? So when we started to develop these skills, particularly the body skills in the 80s, as the cesarean rate was increasing and we were trying to reduce the long first and second stages of birth, it led to more medical interventions in which there really wasn't a medical problem, which led to what were called unnecessary cesareans, because women just labored for a very long time. And that had been true when the cesarean rate was very little. When I gave birth in 1970, and it was 4.5%. And this is where the natural birth movement has given us incorrect information. They go, well, see, 95% of women can labor. We can labor, but you have to understand, if we labor, then whatever it is, is. So women whose labors went on for days and days, they didn't want that. They just couldn't get out of it. They didn't know why. But what we discovered was that we, as Father said, we have a big object. It has to come down through and out our body. So in the last lessons, you've been dealing with the bony structure, how to create space in the bony structure, which makes common sense, not hard to do. And if your body opens easily, wow, great. And if it doesn't, do it a little bit more so you feel more confident, because you learned in the soft lesson that you could impact and soften your soft tissue skills to allow more motion. So then it came down to positions, because one of the things that the natural birth movement started to talk about, which had a right part to it, and it has a crazy part to it, like a lot of the message that has come out of that movement since the 70s, that has caused the craziness of where you are now, was that women lying on their back, it wasn't a gravity position. Well, you're right, it isn't a gravity position, but get on your back now. Put your legs up in stirrups. How open does your bony pelvis feel? Very open. So now come into a semi-recumbent position, which means that you're going to sit back on your sacrum, you're going to bend your knees, put your feet on the floor. How open do you feel down there now? Not as open, but it's in a gravity position. So we were told to get into that position, and then we closed off our pelvis. That's why positions are so important. So when the natural birth movement tells women to walk, what if every time you walk, you have very tight muscles in your butt and your hamstrings? That closes off the space. So what about squatting? Well, if you've ever been in third world countries, most women don't squat anyway. They sit with their legs straight out in front of them or tucked up to one side. But in those cultures where women do squat, if you paid any bit of attention, they squat with their knees towards their belly. That's not what the squatting is being told to natural birth. Through the natural birth movement, squat with your knees out to the side. But when you do that, you'll tighten up the muscles that run from your sit bone to the sacrum, which makes it harder for the baby to move the sacrum, mobilize the sacrum, to turn that bend to come under the pubic bone, and it can just stop the baby from coming down. So positions were very important. In the 80s, the rage, and still is today, get on your hands and knees. But what you'll understand in the video in this segment is that the baby falls forward, the head deflexes, a wider diameter of the baby then comes through our vagina. No wonder they had so many fourth-degree tears on hands and knees. Besides which, when you get on your hands and knees, it backs off the labor, which means you're in labor longer. So we need to rethink positions, and we believe that this video will help you understand how you can get into positions that your baby likes. And this is tied to the lesson on the progression of labor as well.